Alden Gonzalez covers the Rams, ESPN.com. It really puts a little bit more meaning on this game that was already pretty meaningful. That Saints loss last night.
Yeah, absolutely. And just from the Rams' perspective, I mean, they already beat the Saints, but if they could beat the Eagles on Sunday, they'd be in position to get one of those first-round byes. I believe they'd be the number 2 seed. Obviously, that would be huge for them, but I think it's going to be a really fun, close game, guys.
Yeah, let me ask you, I mean, this was a team that moved out to L.A., didn't seem like a lot of fanfare, kind of flew under the radar last year, haven't been very good in their time in St. Louis, now in L.A. How did all of a sudden they spring from where they were to, in the fight for home field advantage?
Well, I'll tell you, off the bat, I would say they actually came into L.A. with a lot of fanfare because they were here for a couple of decades. There was a lot of excitement about this team when they initially got here. They had more than 90,000 people show up to a preseason game.
Wow.
The problem with that year was that they immediately showed that they were not good, that they were very boring to watch on offense. Their season kind of unraveled on them. And the culture here in Los Angeles, especially if you're an NFL team, at a time when the NFL hadn't been here for more than 20 years, people are going to move on really quickly if you're not grabbing their attention initially. And what happened with the Rams was they kind of ruined what was a pretty good opportunity to kind of capture this Los Angeles market. And now they kind of have a lot of ground to make up. And they're still kind of making up that ground. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it's been a national story throughout the year about how attendance is down at the Coliseum. But give them a lot of credit because they made the kind of turnaround from one year to the next that very few people could have ever anticipated. It all started with hiring Sean McVay, getting a young, energetic, offensive-minded head coach who's kind of a natural leader. They put the right staff around him, specifically the right amount of experience in terms of grooming quarterbacks. You look at Matt LaFleur, who's their offensive coordinator. He was with Matt Ryan and with Kirk Cousins in previous stops. Greg Olsen, his quarterbacks coach, has had a ton of experience as an offensive coordinator. So you got a bunch of good minds around Jared Goff that was kind of lacking from the previous staff. And then I think it's just the personnel around him. I don't think a single team made a bigger upgrade at one position than the Rams did in going from Greg Robinson at left tackle to Andrew Whitworth at left tackle, who's one of the best. You got a good center in John Sullivan. You beefed up the receiving core with signing Robert Woods, trading for Sammy Watkins, drafting Cooper Kupp. And I think, in the midst of all that, give Jared Goff some credit. He got better. And, similar with Carson Wentz, where obviously Carson Wentz had a much better rookie year. But I think Jared and Carson both kind of benefited from just having a normal offseason, from being in the NFL for a second year. I mean, you look at 2016 for both of these guys, such a long year coming off your collegiate season, pre-draft prep, integrating into the NFL, playing deep into the season. These guys always kind of tend to hit a wall. And I think Jared Goff came back in fresh. He was a lot better. He's making better decisions. I think it's just been kind of the perfect storm of events for the Rams to have this turnaround here.
Here, Wentz gets a lot of the praise out here for the Eagles turnaround. Now, Peterson's on the list, but Wentz, to many, is the top reason for the Eagles being where they are. Who is getting more of that attention in L.A.? Is it Goff or is it McVay?
It's McVay. Goff gets a lot of it, but I think it's McVay just because he came in this year and he took over an offense that for about a decade, really for about a decade, had been bottom third in the NFL, last in the NFL in every category last year. And now all of a sudden, this Rams offense has kind of just become one of the best in the NFL. Nobody, even the most optimistic of pundits could have foreseen this offense kind of taking the strides that it has. They're averaging more than 30 points per game. Nobody saw that coming. And a lot of it has to do with Sean McVay's scheme. I don't think there's a better stat about the current Rams and the fact that Rams receivers lead the NFL in yards before first contact. And to me, that's just a sign of how wide open these guys are most of the time. If you see these games, a lot of Jared Goff's throws are very high percentage throws because Sean McVay is able to get these guys open all the time.
and nothing's a higher percentage maybe than the screen, and you write about that on the ESPN website, that's been a godsend for them. Can you talk about how often they go to the screen and why that's working for the Rams?
Yeah, the Rams have gained the second most yards in the NFL on the screen. Todd Gurley, I believe, is around second or third in yards gained off the screen. Jared Goff is about fourth. And I think the screen game kind of exemplifies what Sean McVay is about in terms of just making the game really easy on his quarterback. Don't get me wrong, Jared Goff has made some impressive downfield throws this year where you kind of see that arm talent come out. But one thing that Jared Goff has done, the best thing I think that Jared Goff has done this year is kind of avoid interceptions. At one point, he had the best interception rate. He had a better interception rate at one point than he ever even did in college. And a big reason for that is the screen game, just very easy short passes to Todd Gurley, who could get a ton of yards after the catch. And then another thing for Jared that's been huge for him is he's learned kind of how valuable that check down can be to Todd Gurley. You'll see him a lot where he'll go through his progressions downfield. Nothing will be wide open, and he'll just check it down to Todd Gurley, and Todd Gurley will just get a bunch of chunky yardage out of something like that. And if you have a guy like Todd Gurley who could make plays after the catch the way he can, you use that to your benefit, and Jared Goff has been using that a lot this year.
So how about the wildfires? Because that's been a discussion a lot. We've heard some reports out there. How has it affected the preparation for the Rams this week, their practice schedule? Do you think it'll have an effect on the game on Sunday at all?
I don't really think so. The wildfires have been really devastating around here, guys, in Ventura County especially, which is just north of L.A. where the Rams practice facility is at. Also in L.A., in some neighborhoods of L.A., there's been a couple that it's been really tough to watch. But in terms of just the Rams, I don't think it's had too much of an impact. They had to cancel their Wednesday practice and instead hold a 1-hour walkthrough. But for them in recent weeks, the Wednesday had basically become kind of an extended walkthrough because a lot of veteran guys had taken time off those days. The air quality at their facility has been fine for the last 3 days. They had their normal practice on Thursday. They're having their normal practice now. I don't really think it's been that big of an issue. The fires are not close to the Coliseum. At this point, there's no indication that they will have any impact on the game or anything. So, I mean, it's impacted L.A. and Ventura County a lot. But in terms of just the Rams, not so much.
Alden Gonzalez covers the Rams. Goff, McVay, Gurley, they get a lot of attention. But even with Fisher, their defense was pretty good. How come the defense isn't getting as much of the attention?
I think it's just because people are so stunned to see how well the offense has fared this year. But, I mean, you're right. I think the defense has been very good. They got off to a really slow start for some reason. Those first 3 weeks of the year, especially weeks 2 and 3, they kind of struggled. But ever since week 4, they've kind of been one of the top defenses in the NFL. I think the major reason for that, and a lot goes into it, but a major reason for that is Aaron Donald just really starting to get into his game. He obviously spent an entire summer holding out. He didn't play in the first game, was really, really rusty in the second one. But every week you see him getting better and better, better and better. He had a couple of sacks last Sunday, and he's just disrupting the game probably better than he ever even has in his career. And his ability to create pressures the way he does just kind of opens it up for guys on the outside when you look at Michael Brockers and Robert Quinn. And I think Wade Phillips' scheme sets it up so that he's creating consistent pressure with his kind of with his down linemen and his outside linebackers, and he sets it up for his inside linebackers and his secondary to make plays on the ball. And, the Rams inside linebackers, Alec Ogletree and Mark Barron, are very athletic, and you've seen the Rams secondary tally up a ton of interceptions. They already have more interceptions than they did last year. LaMarcus Joyner has been very, very good in his first year as a safety. The Rams will give up a long play pretty much every game. You'll see them give up a really long run every game, but they'll bounce back from that, and at the end of the day, they'll have some pretty good defensive numbers.
Alden Gonzalez with us, covers the Rams, ESPN.com, NFL Nation, and, of course, the Eagles are in L.A. to take on the Rams this week. Big matchup here. Home field advantage really in play for both of these teams. What to you is a key? When you look at the Eagles, a lot of people, they lose that game to the Seahawks, and all of a sudden, on the Philly side, it's they go on the road, they've got to play out there again, and people are starting to have a little bit of doubt. So what to you is kind of the key to this one when you look at these two teams?
Well, I think they're very evenly matched teams. And I think this week, what you've seen with the Rams of late is the Rams are relying really heavily on Jared Goff to throw the ball. Jared Goff is throwing the ball, I think, about twice as much as the Rams are running the ball. And a lot of that is what we talked about, where a lot of Jared Goff's passes are very efficient, short passes. But especially against this Eagles team, I think they're the best in the NFL against the run. I don't see them relying on Todd Gurley too heavily on the ground in this game. I think Jared Goff is going to have to throw the ball a lot. And I think the key is going to be whether or not Jared Goff can continue to keep those interceptions down. I think that can make the difference.
All right, Alden Gonzalez here on the Sports Bash. Eagles-Rams, countdown to kickoff coverage starts at 1. Merrill and Mike, 4:25 here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN with our outside view from L.A. Alden, thanks so much.
No problem, guys.